Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Ali AI. Start your free trial now.
Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Cool. Hey everyone. Just to intro, just firstly, thank you for popping along to the practical search marketing session. I'm Akash. That was a really cool intro. I've never had an intro that good before, so I'm not going to go into who I am. I've had about 6 years of pure SEO work behind me, worked at the BBC, worked sort of in-house, and nowadays mainly just agency side. But yeah, enough about me. Let's talk about SEO. It's getting more complicated. It's getting a lot harder to track, and it's a lot less accessible than it used to be. I kind of want to strip things back a little bit and focus on like the basics of prioritization or a bit of old school SEO, simplifying what to focus on so you can really start to push the needle with some of these more complicated metrics and some of the more complicated tasks that we are seeing in SEO at the moment. So just as a quick agenda, I'll be covering sort of what needle moving tasks are. I'll be also looking at sort of testing and iteration as well. Then moving on to tool management and just maybe avoiding tool overload and not going too hard into them. Fourth, we'll be looking at sort of agile SEO practices. I think we've all done it to death as SEOs, but how can we tweak that? How can we make agile practices a little bit better for us? We'll then be looking at how we can adapt our ways of working and look at sort of how new trends are going to shape how SEOs are working in the future. And then finally, we're just going to wrap up with some actionable steps and takeaways for prioritizing your tasks in general. So by the end of this session, you should have a really clear and a very, very bare bones and basic process to follow with a few tools just to simplify your SEO efforts in general. So what would we define as a needle-moving task? You can see the big magical 8 ball that says, it depends. I feel like that's my favorite answer to all clients or anybody sort of working in marketing. But to me, it's something that it's going to deliver real measurable impact, right? So we can go over a bunch of the different tasks and the different deliverables in SEO that historically help, like optimizing page load speeds, fixing crawl errors, or improving your mobile usability. But we want you to think about like sort of technical SEO, content optimization, and UX enhancements as things that push results quickly if you use the right frame of working for them. So we all know, right, what these tasks are. I think the key challenge really is knowing which ones are actually going to drive results for your specific site or for your specific client. So what do you use to define whether the tasks are going to make a difference or not? Bunch of tasks here that we're all used to. I'm not going to go into what they are because we all know what they are, but I think a lot of the time, SEO can feel like we've just got a bunch of ingredients and no recipe. And I don't think it's about following a checklist blindly from your tools or from the metrics that you're seeing in your random software. So we've got some key tasks there based on, technical SEO, improving your page speed, content strategy, UX improvements, link building. Again, I reiterate, we know what the tasks are, but the challenge is determining what's going to be useful within the context of your site. So are your tasks worthy? Not every single task is going to deliver the same value for every site. And I think we need to evaluate tasks based on the metrics that we're going to put to them. So ROI is probably the biggest one. And how useful is that task going to be within its specific context? So improving page speed is almost always going to be worth it for your users. Boost rankings, it boosts your user experience. And then on the other hand, you've got tasks like tweaking keywords without a clear objective, a bit of experimentation without any structure. It might not be as worth the effort as the prior item on your page speed. So again, let's look into ways you can identify what's going to be important for you and for your site. So at the top there, identify your tasks with impact. So literally things like improving page speed for me are massive because I work in technical SEO, but that might be different for you if you're a content marketer or whatsoever. So next I jump into evaluating whether the tasks are actually worth the effort that's being put in. So assess that return on effort. And then I put these assumptions to the test. I implement these changes on a very small scale, see if they actually work. So if I optimize a few key pages, update a few blog posts, and track those results with free tools like Google Analytics, using page speed insights to see if any technical updates have helped with page speed. That's the testing portion. And then you just adjust, iterate, and scale that based on what works and what doesn't. So based on what I find, I either scale up, or if it doesn't work so well, I refine the approach, changing one different thing at a time, which is going to be your independent variable. So ultimately we're looking at continuous improvement in SEO, and the only way to do that is by essentially experimenting. So I'm going to reiterate, experiment loads. SEO is a science, and like any science, it's all about testing and learning from the results that you're seeing in front of you. And instead of making changes across an entire site just because of a whim or because you've seen a red light in some software, why don't you try and do it a bit more organically? Try these small changes, do these little things and see if you get any results. And obviously if you don't, you can switch up the methodology and try something different. But track that impact using the tools that you're used to. And if you are seeing improvements, whether that's in engagement, whether that's in rankings, then start to scale those across the site. It's super, super basic, but it's a really, really nice little recipe to help with your experimentation, especially when you're trying things out with newer metrics. So again, just put that into a really simple flow chart. If I was going to apply Occam's razor to SEO experimentation, I'd always start small. When testing those changes, focus on optimizing, like I said, a few little pages, measure the right metrics. A lot of the time people will be popping into an audit, just a random thing on page speed when it's a fully content audit or whatnot. So make sure if you're giving this to a client, you're giving them metrics that they've asked for or metrics that you think are useful. You're showing them how useful they are. And then compare your data pre and post. So make sure you're doing a benchmark beforehand, or you have benchmarks beforehand so that you can at least look at how that's changed things afterwards once you've made the change. And then the final bit and the most important bit is just iterate based on those findings. Actually jump in and make the changes to your methodology. And if not, carry on with what you're doing at a greater scale. And that's literally it. It's just a bit of playing around. SEO is a science. It's not a recipe. So once you've collected the data from your test, obviously, just go in and refine it more, add more variables, change things up a little bit. It doesn't have to be super rigid. You've got the basic kind of framework here just to work with in terms of experimentation. And you'll start to see results the more you do experimentation, the more you're seeing things in real time in front of you based on the data that you have. So make sure you're utilizing tools that are available and free without also getting lost in them. Kind of going on to tool overload. We're an SEO convention. We all use loads and loads of tools, and we're seeing them all around us right now. They can be super useful, but also having too many can quite easily lead to tool overload, especially when you've got conflicting data and it kind of slows your decision making in general. I like to stick to a core set of trusted tools, and then I like to add things on wherever there's a business case for it. The goal for me is just to focus on meaningful metrics, so the things that I'm finding on Google Analytics, things that I'm finding on Search Console, etc. But at the end of the day, my main point on this tool slide is at the end of the day, the tools are there to assist you. It's your expertise and your decision making as a marketer that are going to really make the hugest impact here, not listening to what a tool's saying blindly. Obviously, got to do an AI one, haven't I? AI tools are improving massively. They are getting there. They're more prominent in SEO. I've used a huge amount of AI tools, including Ali AI, for example. The key to these tools is validation, right? AI generated suggestions should never really be implemented blindly. You've got to check on them at the moment. And I think that's currently where we're at right now. Maybe in 5 or 10 years in the future, things will be different. But where we stand right now, we still need that human aspect, that human validation. And at the end of the day, if you're using sort of content as an example with AI, if you're using LLM, using an LLM to generate content and put it directly onto a website, you're losing that uniqueness that a human has got when they're writing their content. And you're also going to probably run into a few legal troubles as well. So at the end of the day, it's at the moment, it's probably not worth outsourcing your whole copywriting team to an AI or an LLM. But they are improving, but they literally still can't do your job yet. So treat them as a helper, not a decision maker. Just use your common sense and a bit of human oversight and validation, really. And then moving on to sort of the framework that we all know and we use, I guess, it's sort of agile working. Because SEO changes so rapidly, whether it's algorithm updates, new user behaviors, emerging trends, being agile is probably the best way to stay competitive within marketing and within SEO. We've all got very different versions of agile methodology, similar to what's used in sort of software development, which is where we basically stole it from. But for me, I just break things down into short sprints. I focus on the areas of concern, i.e. technical SEO, content, link building strategies. And then I evaluate at the end of each sprint. I look at the key metrics, look at the success, look at the declines, and then move on. Something that you all do in some form or some way. But the key with SEO agility is it's not really about a massive overhaul, but small continuous improvements are going to allow you to stay a bit more adaptable and optimize a little bit more efficiently as well without wasting so much time. Here's how that looks really in terms of a cycle. I'll not spend too long on this one, but you jump in, you plan the most important tasks for your sprint, you execute those tasks over a really short time frame, you review the performance of those tasks and then the results that you get, and then adapt on what works. So this is probably the 6th time I've shown you a version of a cycle like this, but it's also similar and it's also simple. This kind of cycle will give you continuous improvement because you're going over and over again. And the goal is to remain as flexible as you can, as responsive to new data, trends, algorithm changes, but whilst not staying bogged down by kind of traditional planning or long planning cycles or wider company sort of methodology. But as SEOs, like I said, we've all done Agile to death. We can make it work a little bit better for us by, again, stealing from the industries that we stole Agile from. So enter game development. So there's a notable studio called Bungie in sort of the game dev space, massively struggling to keep up with the content demands of its player base. They introduced within their development team strike teams. So small teams focused on solving specific bugs, features, or creating multidisciplinary content, story, video, animation, etc., doing everything they can to keep basically a live service behemoth afloat. And it sounds a little bit similar to search marketing to me, and I think that's why we're stealing so much of this methodology. In SEO, obviously, we've got agile approaches, but we can use these strike teams a little bit better as well. So small focused teams working on specific tasks, whether it's technical SEO, content strategy. The team might have an SEO specialist, a web dev, CRO experts, UX designers, but as soon as the problem's identified or as soon as content needs to be created, it's about mobilizing the perfect person within that team to get things done really quickly. And I think it's a really cool way of doing things in terms of game development, and I'd love to steal as many of these kind of methodologies as possible because there's millions and millions of pounds going into these industries and they use these methodologies for a reason. Speaking of newer types of trends, obviously social search is huge, and I know this seems like a massive tangent, but this is something that I think is reshaping the SEO landscape. Whether you believe it or not, you can look at the data and see that platforms like TikTok and Reddit, which are hyper-specific in terms of the answers to people's queries, are becoming search engines essentially, especially for younger audiences, and things like TikTok as well. So I think this shift, while it's not, all happened at once, I think we still need to think beyond traditional search if we want to stay on top of things, and we need to consider how our content's going to perform on these other platforms as well. TikTok, for example, you've got your hashtags and engagement being your ranking factors, whereas we look at backlinks and keywords for Google. It's still super, super similar, and we don't want to split apart and silo too much. I think as SEOs, it's crucial to learn more, and as social search continues to grow, we're going to have to, speak more with our social teams and get more integrated as we move on. I think we need to consider both keyword research, for Google and hashtags and trends for TikTok as platforms together. We want to be discoverable where your audience is searching. So if that is Reddit, great. If that is TikTok, great. But they all require different methodologies that are all based on the testing that I mentioned before. You've got to try stuff out and see what works. And if it works, do more of it. If not, we've got to adapt things. Quick one on just the differences here as well. The lines between marketing disciplines are really starting to blur and merge. And I'm all here for it, to be honest. I actually like it. I love it. I love talking to other teams. I love talking to other silos and actually learning a bit more about this whole wider marketing bubble that we're in. To expand on like social search and the similarities to traditional SEO, you've got your engagement on likes, shares, comments, views, etc. Those things are going to be key ranking factors for a video on YouTube or on TikTok. Whereas in traditional SEO, we're looking at, again, keywords, backlinks, things like that to help rank our content on Google as a search engine or Bing or wherever it would be. It's crucial to consider that, our content is going to be on all of these platforms eventually if we are working in a multidisciplinary way. So we need to take care in how we talk to each other as teams and how we do this together. It's crucial to understand how it's going to perform on these platforms, and therefore you need to do the research into the KPIs for those platforms. And I'm not an expert on social search, so I'm not going to go into that too much more. So, massive tangent on a lot of different things, but let's get back to prioritization and prioritization techniques, because again, you all know what to do, you've all got the tasks, you're doing them every day. How do you prioritize between them? How do you focus on the things that are going to be high impact? So I've taken two really, really basic methods that you might have seen before, and I've stripped them down to the bare basics so that you can just apply them to your ways of working as well. We've got, firstly, a simplified Eisenhower matrix. So really, really simple tool, but very powerful for prioritizing tasks in general. That doesn't necessarily have to be SEO or marketing tasks, but you've got your 4 quadrants. You've got things that are urgent and important. So these are must-do tasks. So for me in SEO, it might be fixing a critical site error. In the top right, you've got your not urgent, but still important. Bottom left, the not important but urgent, so things that can be delegated or automated, things you can do down the line. And then in the bottom right there is your not urgent and not important. These are things that are just low priority tasks, often dropped without much impact, or things that you'd need hundreds and hundreds of changes programmatically to start seeing things move the needle. But get all your tasks and stick them into a quadrant like this. It will really help you to stay focused on what matters the most within the moment that you're in. So whether that's in a monthly cycle or a weekly sprint. Really important to be able to, prioritize between the impact of those tasks. Speaking on the impact of tasks, they've all got varying levels, and you need to be able to figure out how to measure that impact in itself. You can start off quite arbitrarily by, applying your own scores based on what you know. But on the other hand, as you go on, I think having data is going to be really, really important in helping you figure out the importance of certain tasks within your workflow, whether that's in SEO or wider marketing. So one good example is an ICE score or an ICE score. I think a lot of people have used this. Impact, confidence, ease. It's a method that helps you rank your tasks by assigning a numerical score to each of those tasks. So in terms of, impact, how much of a positive effect is this task going to have on my SEO results? For the confidence, it's how confident are you that this task is actually going to give you those expected results based on, prior work? Has it worked in the past? And then ease, how easy is it going to be for me to implement this task? Then you take those 3 numbers and you times them together, and it gives you a base score. And that score, obviously, the higher it is, the more impact, more important it is for you to be doing that task. Now, you can, again, like I mentioned before, put these numbers out there arbitrarily, but I think it's really important to try and get metrics to actually feed in to these things. So like I say, with the impact, if you've seen that changing things on a page has increased speed, and it's also increased the amount of users going onto the page or the amount of conversions happening on that page, brilliant. We've got data. We can use that data to say that this is going to have, an 8 or a 9 in terms of impact. And you can define that scale yourself as well. So in terms of the actual prioritization, you can use both of those methods, really. You can go in and list all of your tasks and apply an ICE score of them, so you've got a priority, or you can merge that with the Eisenhower matrix as well, or just do the Eisenhower matrix on its own. The whole point is to take these really basic SEO tasks that you're all used to doing, and then applying this bare bones kind of strategy to it in a cyclical way. So list your tasks, try out whichever prioritization method you want, or mix them both together, and then adjust that for your needs specifically. And then you're back to listing your tasks again and replenishing that task list over. Then we can get into the more complicated stuff. So once things are working, once you've seen results, once you're actually got this cycle going, and every 3 months you're seeing, things are going up, the numbers are looking in the way we want them, we can start to add extra little, the bells and whistles of SEO or marketing. So you've got multi-touch attribution. We can start measuring how different SEO efforts are going to contribute to conversions along that customer's path. Custom segments in GA as well are really, really useful. I wouldn't say super, super advanced, but again, super useful. And same with cohort analysis. You can compare the behavior of users before and after you've done an SEO update. All of that could be done with the previous sort of these methodologies that I mentioned on using an ICE score and an Eisenhower matrix as well. But it's really easy to get distracted in SEO. There's always some shiny new tool. There's always a shiny new object, and you've really got to be aware of like shiny object syndrome, where we are getting sidetracked, I guess, by the latest buzz that we see on LinkedIn, or we've seen something that'll it'll automate our content audits and actually write all our content for us, and then tuck us in at night as well and cook us fried eggs in the morning. But you get what I'm saying. There's a lot that these tools promise to do, but at the end of the day, a lot of these can be pitfalls. So it's just important to be mindful on focusing on the things that are moving the needle for you, and you're only going to figure that out by doing that basic experimentation. Then move on to your bells and whistles. Then move on to your shiny objects. Then, sorry, I just saw the hello dear thing and it made me like internally chuckle. But focus on what matters to keep things moving. But mistakes in prioritization are fine as long as we learn from those mistakes and we use them in that next cycle. So you're going to hate this one, but SEO is a journey and it's not a destination. Surprised nobody groaned at that, but every single pitfall links to a lack of proper prioritization. So, if you're ignoring your technical SEO, you've not prioritized your user site experience. Relying too heavily on tools is a lack of prioritizing, real critical thinking with your methodology. Proper prioritization is probably what's going to keep the wheels on your bus, so really important to put a lot of time into that. I guess to wrap up, the key takeaway here is to just focus on prioritizing what's moving your needle based on the testing that you've done, not what a bunch of tools are saying. Successful SEO is just, again, about prioritizing the right tasks and staying flexible. And my challenge to you in this sort of evolving landscape is go back to your SEO strategy, audit your tasks, start prioritizing for maximum impact, and you can implement some of the techniques that sort of Amanda will be talking about next. And later on, Alex is going to be giving you sort of some of the nitty gritty as well on sort of what good SEO experimentation might look like on a much more granular basis than me. And yeah, just to wrap up, just want to say a massive thank you for listening to all of that. Just a second one while I've got the platform. I'm just a massive advocate for better mental health practice within marketing. As a sufferer of anxiety myself, amongst a few other things, I just wanted to use this to say that, hey, there's always somebody to talk to when things are a bit difficult or things are harder. My DMs are open to literally anybody, like stranger, I do not care. Talk to me. I'd rather you talk to me and feel embarrassed than don't. And they're open to anyone that's struggling, and I'm sure your friends are there for you as well for that. So yeah, if anyone would like to learn how I navigate my own mental health issues while being able to talk to a room full of, I can't count, but there's a lot of people, a lot of you, feel free to get in touch and I'm more than happy to have that chat. But yeah, thank you everyone.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.